All right, everyone, it's time to talk about two things, DACA and NAFTA, because Trump is bringing both up, on Easter itself. So, naturally, he did that for a reason. He knew that people would be talking about it. That's a good thing for Donald Trump. Here's the problem with DACA. The Democrats have to own the fact that they did not attempt to pass any form of deal on DACA, including the fact Trump came out, put the onus on them. You'll remember this, and it was mostly successful. He says, yeah, I'm willing to legalize a bunch of people or let them stay here, maybe perpetually or whatever, but we've got to have a final deal because otherwise these people basically they have no real status. They're not protected. Yeah, I'm going to continue enforcing the law, which is I'm going to begin deporting these people. There's a reason why they haven't issued any strong legal challenge, by the way, in most of these cases to these deportations. They know that it is within executive purview to enforce existing immigration law. They know that, and DACA, it's dead. It's not really in effect at this point. It's sort of a zombie executive order of sorts at this point because the Ninth Circuit refuses to let it die. But when it goes to the Supreme Court, Trump gets 100% of what he wants, probably sets himself up as an imperial president on the immigration issue. By the way, he's still managing to harangue about his wall. This is a popular concept. The Democrats think that it's popular to stand in the way of all immigration reform because racism, bigotry, Trump is a bully, whatever, he doesn't like Mexicans or whatever. That has not worked as a strategy, and they're going to hang themselves with the rope that he's giving them if they continue doing that before the midterms. It's not going to bode well for them in any of these competitive swing state races. It's not going to bode well for them defending seats in otherwise red states. It probably doesn't bode well for them in parts of the Southwest either, where the Democrats have been gaining power. The big Republican bulwark emerging is the Rust Belt, which I'm sure the Republicans would much rather have access to Michigan and continued control of Ohio and stuff like that, and the ability to win in Wisconsin. Is a lot more electoral votes there than there are in New Mexico and Arizona. So Trump has made a really good trade-off when he's doing this in designing his policies. But Trump already got the first wall installment to build his prototypes. They're already there. He's capable of building it. He's considered, a week ago, he said, well, maybe I can talk to the Pentagon. You see, they've got a huge amount of spending, and the thing is, it doesn't have to be specifically allocated. I'll just declare it an element of national security, and I'll build my wall with some of the Pentagon funds. So fuck you. He's capable legally of doing that. The court will probably stand in his way. When that goes before the Supreme Court, he'll win. It's clearly within his purview. As a group that's administered in the executive rather than legislative fashion, money's already there. Now, he can use it for that if he wants. He can simply direct them, hey, allocate the funds, start building the wall, call up so get some bulldozers in here. We're going to begin immediately. He's capable of doing that. He's capable of instructing them to liquefy money for eminent domain usage, which is something I actually oppose Trump on this more or less. I'm not a fan. He said he's a fan of executive privilege when it comes to that. I'm not. I don't think that eminent domain should be used excessively. I think whenever possible, alternatives should be used, and if it has to be used, the person should get much more than 100% for their property. I think the government should be constrained to give 500%. You should have to give at least 5 times what the property's worth. You got an acre of land worth 20 grand, okay, here's 100 grand. It's no longer yours, we've taken it, but you made out like a bandit. Now you can buy several acres of land anywhere else. At the very least, sweeten the deal. The government has all sorts of money. The rest of the taxpayers, I don't think are going to mind, because and hopefully the government doesn't use it so often because it would be controversial if it was using it to any great extent. I'm not a fan of eminent domain. Trump is. I happen to disagree with him on that one. But here's the thing. The DACA deal, the onus was on the Democrats. They lost on this issue. Just like they're losing now on gun control. You see, in the last few days, they've said relatively less about gun control, except in the further left, alt media, like the being liberals or something. Why do you think that is? Why CNN's like, kind of lukewarm on the story? Number one, it's less popular as a story. It's falling behind other issues. Number two, they're going to start losing because they do this every time. The Democrats always, they start out, they say, okay, maybe we need some common sense gun reform. We're going to have universal background checks on, and people are like, oh yeah, okay. Then they're like, okay, we're attaching a rider. No more assault rifles. No more expanded magazines. No more this, no more that. You have to pay a fine. You have to pay a tax. Pretty soon they collapse their own argument because all the center-right people swing against them, then all the centrists and libertarians dogpile them, and then they just end up shutting up. Obama tried to do this. He did this 3 or 4 different times after shootings. It's not going to work, dude. You're not going to get what you want. The states can pass whatever they want. It's going to get torn up in the courts. All these lawsuits, they'll prevail against the states that are trying to raise the age, mental health, background checks. Probably even the de facto bump stock ban will get ruled unconstitutional. It's going to be funny to watch it get torn up. You'll never be able to try that bullshit again. Go ahead and raise the voting age to 21 if you want to do that. See how popular it is. And then we've got NAFTA. Now, I've seen some people have been shitposting about how wonderful NAFTA supposedly is. Oh, it's a free trade agreement. It lowers the price of goods. Here's the thing. If you take a bunch of otherwise good-paying middle-class American jobs, millions of them, export them to Mexico where some corporation, which, you're not fans of corporations if you're on the left. I remember when the left opposed NAFTA largely, by the way. It didn't benefit our economy. It really didn't. It had no measurable impact on it. Some sectors, okay, refining things as opposed to producing things. It's bad for American farmers. It's bad for everything between the coasts within the United States. Help to further the destruction of the Rust Belt. Yeah, it's going to be a popular issue for Trump to say maybe we should leave NAFTA. He's already tied other negotiations to it anyway. Including his tariff talks, and not just involving China, who blinked, that's score one for Trump. I know you didn't hear about that one in the news probably unless you're listening to the idiots on Fox, and then you're just getting it because they happen to be biased and pretend to be right-leaning. Or Breitbart, maybe. But it destroyed middle America. What ends up happening is that NAFTA's actually intervened in trade. It's a bunch of legalese. It makes it easier for corporations here to export labor to Mexico and get raw materials from Canada to exploit the Canadians. That's basically all it's about. It doesn't benefit us except on the coasts, the shipping industry and refining things that are made elsewhere, importing things. Okay, that's great for your big cities on the coast. That's just about, the only thing that it does for us. It's just like the TPP. Now, the same people who said, oh, fuck the TPP, and a lot of them were liberals, is a reason why it wasn't signed by the United States. They turn around and they have no problem with NAFTA. It's the same basic concept, though. How can you not understand that the same problems you saw with the TPP, in the legal sense, in the sense that it's not really free trade, it's just going to screw the United States. It's also going to screw people in Mexico, keep them exploited. It's also going to screw Canada, contribute to pollution and corporatism there. The same kind of deal is also NAFTA, but yet you think that's a good thing because it already existed and you don't see the problem because I guess you don't live in a mill town or something. Okay, well, there are a lot of people, they voted for Trump specifically to stop that kind of thing anyway. Unless he can get big-time renegotiations on NAFTA, yeah, I would expect him to walk away. Now, by the way, there's one important element here. I do not think that Trump actually says, well, that's it. That's it and that's all, no DACA deal. Or that's it and that's all, there will be no renegotiation in NAFTA, we'll probably just leave it. Trump said when he was campaigning, you probably didn't catch this, it's important for someone who is a good negotiator to be able to say, oh, okay, fuck you, and walk away from the table, to get the other party to come to them, to give them an offer, and then negotiation can continue. And he criticized past presidents for not being able to do this, like Obama saying, well, we must have a deal with Iran. He uses the Iran deal, basically, is the idea. We must have an Iran deal, therefore we're willing to give up all sorts of shit to Iran just to have a deal struck. Trump says, no, that's not the way to do it. You put pressure on them, say we want a deal, walk away from it. They will eventually come to you because you're pressuring them so much, and then you can give up less. You can get more out of the other party. And he is correct. See, the thing is, someone like Obama, who never had like a regular job and was just a community organizer, he never had to work on his negotiation skills. He has a bunch of other legalistic Harvard grad people telling him how to negotiate. They don't know how to negotiate. Trump, he was a cutthroat in business for 3 decades. Yes, he knows how to strike a deal at the very least. Give him credit where credit is due, even if you hate him. Even if you think that Trump is off his rocker and demented. He does know how to deal with cutthroats. What do you think the leaders of China are? They're cutthroats. What do you think the Iranians are cutthroats? I may not agree with Hillary when she says to bomb them or John McCain, but they are the regime there is cutthroat. Of course it is. Why would a country not want to get the maximum it wants? The thing is, when you have a very conciliatory, handshaking fop like Obama, in charge of doing the negotiation, he's not willing to go all in. He's not willing to say, screw you, and we expect to get all of what we want. When two parties negotiate, if one of them goes hard, like China or Russia or any of these others automatically will, and the U.S. comes in to negotiate and doesn't go in hard, the U.S. comes out looking stupid by comparison. It's great if you're trying to strike a deal with an ally, well, you probably don't have that problem. Obama, he's talking to Trudeau, he's talking to Merkel, he's talking to Dave Cameron or something. Okay, no such problem. That's not the way business is conducted in those polite artiste circles of the sort of avant-garde manner of politicking. Okay, wonderful. China doesn't do business that way. Russia doesn't do business that way. Mexico doesn't do business that way. That's why we got screwed by several successive administrations. George W., he's not a master negotiator. His business money came from Daddy, basically. Why do you think he called Daddy up? The first person he talked to on 9/11 was Herbert Walker. Absolutely. And then Dick Cheney. Because he didn't have an idea what to do. He's like, oh, all I wanted to do was be the cowboy president and drink my non-alcoholic beer. I swear that it wasn't the real beer. You know, that's what he wanted to do. He had no clue what he was doing. Obama didn't either, at least on that count. Very good with Western European relations. Trump is better with basically every other part of the world. Anything outside of the core of our allies that are already on our side and aren't going to try to stab us in the back, Trump is better with. So yeah, he might look like a bit of a brash bully with Trudeau. So fucking what? Like Trudeau is going to pick up his toys and leave and Canada's going to start being an enemy of our state or something? It's not going to happen, dude. Yeah, we share too big a border for that. So yeah, renegotiating NAFTA is a good thing. Threatening to just say screw it on DACA and go before the court is a good idea. The Democrats will buckle. They'll be forced to buckle because a lot of Democrats want a deal struck too. They may not want most of Trump's proposals. They want the Democrats to sort of stand up to him, which, you know, to a limited extent at least they can. He's willing to negotiate with them. If it means legalizing people who were brought here as minors or served in the U.S. military in exchange for going after sanctuary cities and getting his wall, it'd be a pretty good day. It'd be a pretty damn good deal. It would finally solve the problem permanently instead of putting a patch after patch after patch on it so that the next time you have a rhino or a Democrat in office, you get blanket amnesty. Well, I would think that it's a better alternative to that now. And people on the further right, they'll be like, no, Trump is sold out because he might legalize somebody. Yeah, you don't understand how negotiating works. Okay, you're an idealist, a utopian after sorts. You're sort of like a communist. You think, well, this is the way it should be and anything short of that is evil. That's not the way that the real world works. It's called pragmatism versus idealism. There is an importance. And that's why I'm a monarchist and not an ANCAP. Yeah, it'd be the best of all worlds if we had no government at all. But it can't work. That's utopian bullshit. Privatizing everything isn't going to work, dude. It's going to contribute to mob rule. But a lot of people, ANCAPs will debate me on the point. It's like, okay, yeah, okay. Be totally stateless. Now what's China going to do? Oh, you don't have any borders. You don't have any administration of anything. Yeah, 100 million people just entered the country in order to turn it into a communist state? Well, we can't do anything about that. Look, they're not violating our NEP. They have the right to vote too. Essentially, that's what would happen. It's nonsense. No, you need limited government. As far as NAFTA goes, though, it's not a free trade deal. It's never what it was meant to be about. It's a screw you deal. That's what it is. It's screw the poor Mexicans, screw Canadian environmentalists, and screw manufacturers and factories in Middle America. That's what it's about, on behalf of a handful of multinational megacorporations that just want to pay people less and charge a little bit more for their product after they ship it out. They want to go sell it overseas, too. It makes them a lot of money. They live on the coast. They're not living in some little town in the Rust Belt. They're living in New York City or LA or San Francisco or Miami or something. A big port city. They're living somewhere with a massive port so they can run their coke and stuff. No wonder they love NAFTA. As for DACA, do what you want on DACA. Trump hasn't sold out. He's already finished the prototyping stage for his wall. He'll get some of what he wants, probably more than you expect. It'll just take time. That's how negotiating works. When you're dealing with the Democrats, it's going to take a while. They like to drag their heels. That's about all. Peace out.